Welcome to part 3 of my Rlaarlo setup series. In today's video we're going to be doing a little bit of corner weights, caster and camber, and the best I can a little bit of toe in or toe out. Let's get to it. So welcome to today's video. This is part 3, as I said in the intro. And for today's video we're going to do a little bit of setup. So it's going to be a fairly basic setup, and there are some bits which I don't have the tools to do because most of my setup tooling, my specialised tools, is designed for a 1/12 LMP carpet racer. When you go to 1/10 scale, some things are just not suitable. For example, it's not here, but I've got a ride height gauge, but the increments are so small because the LMP 1/12 car runs very low to the carpet. Its maximum's like, I think the maximum on there is like 5 mil or something. Not that you'd run it that high. The gap underneath the chassis here on this car and the surface plate is more than 5 mil, so I don't have one of those to hand. The basic things I'm going to do today is probably, I say problems, looking at it now. Camber's quite an easy adjustment to make. Looking at I'm just looking at the way you would do it now, although it's not. Oh yes, there is. Yes, I suppose you can. Yeah, there's an adjustment you can do on the top wishbone. There's also adjustment on the bottom wishbone. We got toe out or toe in. That one's a little bit harder because, again, the tools I've got are for 1/12. So this one's going to be more visual. I might even have to use a different surface plate or mat that I've got that's got like straight lines. But one of the important things, when you do any setup, it is important that the surface you're doing it on is flat. I mean, the table here is reasonably flat, but I can see imperfections in it anyway. I've even got a spirit level there. I'm not going to bother doing that. It's not that. It would help if it was that flat. At least you know things are set how they're set, and it would make a difference. And the reason we're doing these series for this car is that when I take it out, I don't want it squirming all over the place. So I want as much stability when I open the throttle, pull the trigger, as it were, as possible. There is a lot of adjustment on this car. For example, the rear wheels and tyres, or the rear hubs I should say, have an adjustment with a top link which you can shorten or lengthen. The front doesn't quite have the same thing there. I'm not quite sure how that would work. I'm looking at it now. It's difficult to see from here. I've never done it before, so you'd have to bear with. So, caster and camber. I don't know whether the caster can be changed, but the camber can be. The rear camber. The rear camber can be adjusted. And the spring platform, so for weight distribution. I have got, out of shot here, which I might try just quickly show you. Here is a corner weight setup station, and it will fit on here nicely, so I'm planning on putting it on there, and we can adjust the platforms to get the weight where I need it. Bearing in mind we are only talking about straight lines, so you don't need to worry too much about left and right percentage. However, I would suggest as close to 50-50 as possible. The front and rear, it depends on where the weight distribution is, and we'll see what it looks like on the scales. I'm hoping the scales, 1, work, 2, can take the weight of this. I mean, this is quite a heavy car. I don't know what the weight is on that. It does say designed for 1/8 buggy and truck, 1/10 buggy and touring car, and 1/12. So if it could take a 1/8 buggy, then we're okay. So the other tool I'm going to use today is the camber tool. I've got a digital version of it, but I just thought for today, a lot easier, we'll set this up on the front and the rear. I think we want the rear slightly negative camber, so that's when the wheels are tilting inwards, so the top of the wheel is further in. And the front the same. You want a very slight amount of negative camber. Again, the front wheel should pop in. I have quickly checked this one, and I'll do my best to show you, show you my findings. So let me move the camera so that you can see a little bit more of what I'm looking at. So you're going to push very lightly on the wheel, and the top here, it's on 0 at the moment. I think it's on as close to 0 as I can see. And we're going to push that in, and that will now measure the degrees. Now that is towing, I keep saying towing in. The camber is almost 3 degrees. So that's 3 degrees of negative camber. That's not too bad. Yeah, if I just hold it there, just over 3 degrees. I'm thinking something like 2 degrees. I suppose the more camber you run, the less tyre is touching the road, less friction, more speed. Don't know. It's my theory. It's not. I mean, it's the caster. The caster. If you lay the kingpin, so the kingpin is the pivot that goes all the way down that the wheel will turn on. If you lay the top back, that gives you a lot of straight line stability. So I think that's maybe what we might need to do. But I'm going to try and get these for like 2 degrees. I'm just going to check the rear. I'm not going to move the camera. So we've got it in the middle. I'm going to hold it there, and I'm going to let's move the top in, which I think it is. That's slightly less, so that's 2 degrees. So the front in its natural setting on here, 3 degrees, give or take, and the back is 2 degrees. It's probably not a bad starting point, but I think for me to understand how to change things, I think I might leave the back ones. I'm going to try and adjust the front to stand the wheel more upright. I did remember that one of these screws was loose, so I'm going to check the screws on here. I'm not sure how that adjusts, but so I'm going to have a little play around just off camera a minute so I understand what's going on, and then I'll be back with some information of whether or not I can adjust this to where I need it. My hands are in the way, so I do apologise for that. Just bear with me while I sort this out. Okay, so I think I might have figured it out a little bit. So I don't know if you can see, I might have to hold the camera here. You'd have to bear with me, because I know holding the camera and showing you things is a bit of in itself can be a bit of a mission, but you have to just bear with me. So on top there, if you look at, if I've got anything to point with, that's so I'm not in the way of anything. So there's a screw there, like a bolt. So that goes all the way through. When you take that out, this arm slides, and underneath there, although there's 3 holes here, the holes in this are elongated. They're 3 holes, but they're not round, allowing you to move little small increments. Now, on the other side, this bolt naturally is here. For the time being, I've just put it in the first hole and done it up. Now, you don't want to over tighten these, and the size of these screws here, these bolts, is pretty poor. When I say the size, I've got nothing that fits. Even the tool that comes with the kit, the Allen wrench, which is this one there, it's still a bit of a shit fit. So you've got to be careful. You don't want to round those off. So I've just moved it out. You can see there's a slight gap between that and here, and the other side is flush. It's pushed in, and it is in there fairly tight. I've tried moving it myself with a minimal amount of force, and it seems okay. So I have moved it out. There's probably more than I needed to move it out. But what we'll try now, we'll measure up this side again for the camber, and hopefully it's less than 3 degrees, I'm hoping. And then we'll check the other side. So just let me get the camera repositioned. So I've had to change cameras there because for some reason the GoPro was charging. It was being charged, but it didn't charge. I don't know what's going on. So anyway, I've got it zoomed in. I'm hoping you can see this. It is going to be a little bit clearer. I think the phone's probably a better picture actually. So we're going to hold that there. And that's a degree. If you look at that, can you see that? I'm looking at it through the camera now, so I'm kind of seeing what you can see. 2 degrees. So that's about 2 degrees. So coming out of fraction has made that a 2 degree camber. So that's where negative camber is where the top of the wheel is tilted in, or in some cases the bottom of the wheel tilts out. It depends what sort of setup you have on your car. I'm not going to go into all the details on that now, but on this occasion I've moved the top link out, so that's made that more of a 2 degree camber. And the other side, which I'm going to move the camera over and check it with you, we need to adjust that as well. So I'm assuming that it's about 3 degrees because it's in the same setting. I'm going to move the camera now, move it over, and I'll put my gauge on there. I'll try not to move the car too much. So that's the other side. That's 2 degrees. So I'm just going to check the other side. Let me move the camera. And that's 2 degrees as well. So interesting. So I've had to move that top one to get 2 degrees. The other one I haven't had to move. Let me show you. On there I've moved. You can see that grey top arm is sort of out. It's not flush with the actual moulding. And that one, if I come out into it, there it is. So I haven't moved that. That was from stock. And I've just eyeballed. I don't know if I can show it on the camera. It's so difficult. So the front of that, I mean, I'm looking at with the back wheel there, it's canted in, I'll say 2 degrees for my eyesight. And that side. I mean, it does look, and that's not dead straight, it's not a good way of doing it, but it looks, for my eyes, nevertheless, a bit better. I'm going to zoom out a little bit if I can. We can assume that the front is done. I will just quickly check the 2 back wheels. I'm looking at 2 degrees on those as well. They are slightly different, so they look like they're more canted in. We'll soon find out. We'll get it all squared up, and then we'll check the back to see what they currently are stock. I wasn't going to move them. It is a bit easier because it's just a turnbuckle on top there, and you just adjust. You know, just turn that like you would on any RC car. Lengthen or shorten it will adjust the top link to what you want. So I don't know if I got. The most difficult thing is finding a spanner that fits that size. I don't know what it is. If it's 5mm, 4mm, some Chinese 3 3/4 mil plus a bit. Who knows? But I think the most important thing to do is measure it first. So let me just set the gauges up. So here's the gauge on the back wheel. This is the inside, well, so the back left. And that there, I'm going to read it through the lens actually. 1, 2, 2.5 mil. I don't know. Is that 2.5? 1, 2, yeah. So that's like 2.5 mil. I mean, I can change that by adjusting that top link. So 2.5 mil that side. I may as well check the other side. This side's a bit tricky to show you because I'm trying to get the camera in and do it at the same time, but that one is, this is really difficult because I've got to look at the camera as well. 1 3/4. Might even be 2 mil. I mean, I can't, the thing is, when I do this, I can't see the screen because I'm looking, I'm right over this end here. And I know there's a little bit of play in, if I go like that, that's gone more there, you see. So this corner wants a bit more and the other side a bit less. So I need to find something which I can turn those turnbuckles with. That's pretty easy said and done. But anyway, let me sort that out. I'll adjust it. I'll come back and show you. I'm not going to show you me doing it because it's too fiddly. You know, trying to turn these around and make sure the camera's pointing where I can see it. All you can see is my big fat hand. Look at the hands there. That's massive. Massive Chernobyl finger. Right, anyway, let me sort that out. So I had let me just set the camera sort out. I had a tool. So that's what I used. That's a TRF spanner from Tamiya. I don't know, is it 5 mil? It doesn't say on there. Doesn't actually say what it is, but that fits those turnbuckles perfectly. Now I have adjusted them. Hopefully you can see that on here. So I'm going to move the camera so you can get a bit of a better close up. Hopefully you can see that. Problem is I can't see the camera, so if it's wrong, well, you know, I've made an error, but there we go. So I'm going to put that in there. That's 3 degrees now. That's 3 degrees. I don't know if it was 3, if it was 2, wasn't it before? Oh, the problem is I've just done it. So I need to undo this. I'll do it on the camera. Let's just try it live. That's never normally a good idea, but I'm going to wind this out. That's like 3 flats. So I'm sort of counting the flats of the turnbuckle. And that's about 2 degrees. It's just over. Don't suppose it's really worth doing too much, being too finicky here. I'm trying to move everything. There we go. So does that look about right? Yeah, it's flush. So that's 2 degrees. So I've got the front at 2 degrees and the back. Let me just move the camera again. Now this side's also a bit difficult. Let me try. I'm going to have to do it and then well, that doesn't actually move at all, so I'm guessing I can't see that from where I'm sat. I've got to go to the camera and have a look. That one, what does that say? Come on, eyes. Who's got the eyesight here, me or you? It isn't me. This doesn't, I know, I keep moving the camera. I'm so fucking clumsy. There we go. What does that say? Does that say 2 degrees? Please say 2 degrees. Yes, well, just over. That's not make it only because I've got to move it, haven't I? So like that. That says like 1 degree now. Hang on. Oh, that's why it's not actually, it wasn't actually in. That's put on too much now. Yeah, that's a bit too much. That's got 3 degrees on it. I'm just gonna point, that's the one I did. That's a bit more and a bit more. You have to excuse my big fat arms in the way. Well, I haven't got fat arms, but they, in the camera they look massive. I'm gonna call that there. So, just to finish up, we've got 2 degrees on each wheel. Right, let me sort my tools out. So that's the car's camber done. It is a bit fiddly. What makes it more difficult is trying to film it as well. So, you know, it's not difficult, but it's difficult trying to get everything in shot and trying to make things interesting enough to watch it in the first place. So I hope that makes a bit of sense. So it did need a bit of adjustment. I'm still a bit mystified on the front where that comes out for 2 degrees and that one didn't. I'll probably watch the film back and it's probably freaking way off. When you start looking at measuring devices at an angle through glasses, when you're older, it all just looks like, it all looks the same. So, right, so we do have a bit of time here to perhaps put it onto the scales and we can start to see whether the corner, see what it weighs. It's going to be without the shell on, obviously, so, and I don't know, I'm not using these scales for flipping ages. I have used them on my 12th scale, but I don't even know if they still work. So let me set it up on the scales. So that's all done. The next bit I'm going to do, before I put it on the scales, that sounds so, what's the word I'm looking for? Over-engineered. I'm going to put the RC car on scales. I'm pretty sure there's people that do that anyway, especially, perhaps, I don't know, I could be wrong, but if you race on the oval, then I would think scaling is probably more important. I used to race on ovals. I know people scale circuit cars that go left and right, I get it, but for an oval, the cross weight was imperative. And that's on a full-size car. Even the miniature versions, these 1/10 ones, for example, they still have the same weight distribution that needs to be set up. So, yeah, I don't quite know where I was going with that, but it sounds over-engineered. But before I put it on the scales, I'm going to do the tracking. Now, I haven't got a tracking machine or measuring ruler or toe in or toe out gauge. I'm pretty sure there is one. I haven't actually looked on. Is there if you know, is there anyone that does a toe in and toe out gauge for RC cars? I know the 1/12 one does. I've got that. On the setup station. Is that the same thing? Do you think that's the same? Have I kind of overlooked that as I'm talking? Right. So, because I haven't got one, I've got one, like I said, I've got one for the 1/12, but I don't think it will fit the 1/10. I don't know, I'll have to look into it. I keep distracting myself. So this is a very manual process. I've got the, just the workboard. The Tamiya do one like this as well. It's just it's just a stop. It's a cut proof. So when you cut things, it doesn't cut through, and it doesn't damage the surface that you're working on. In this case, it's one of the kitchen tables, because well, let me show you. Let me show you why I'm still here. There's a shed, but that's not mine. The gap, that's my shed. My shed is there. Most of it is fucked because it's got split wood, and it's taken, I've got that in May, and it's a long story, but anyway, yeah, that's where my shed should go. The other one's up, but anyway, back to the table, and hence why we're still here. So I'm going to try and show you what I'm looking at so that you understand how I do it without using any equipment. So these have got lines on. Now I've lined up the back wheels just along a random line to make it straight. Now if I look down that line, you have to sort of bear with me a minute. Can you see where that line on the back wheels? So the back wheels are towing in slightly. I think that's just built in. I think that's a normal thing for any rear wheel driven wheel or axle. I know this is four wheel drive. And when you go forward, you can see that line there. Very, very sort of, my camera's sort of doing its own like little thing, which I don't really like. I don't know why it does that. That the line is sort of, so that wheel is actually towing, what would we say that is? Towing out slightly, which is probably not a bad thing. We go across the other side. I'm just gonna, all I'm doing is eyeballing that up against a line. Again, that's a very slight tow out on that one. And that one there, very slight toe in. Now the back, as far as I'm aware, you can't alter. You can't alter the toe. It's built into the bottom wishbones. So there's nothing you can do about that. Oh, or actually, there's probably, yes you can, there's little spaces. Let me try and point them out to you. In here, in these, what are they called? Hinge pin clamps. I don't know whether you can buy them or if I got them. So you can alter the toe in on that. So that's how you do it. It's very manual. That's a laborious task. I will not be doing that. However, the front is a lot easier. See, if I look like this, why does the camera keep wanting to go the other way? Something else I don't know about. So I'm going to try and adjust the toe using my TRF Tamiya turnbuckle tool, which fits. Yeah, it does fit. So it fits that really, really well. So I'm just going to do it by manual. I'm going to manual that, and then I'll just, rather than show you again, because when I put the camera down, it keeps going to like from landscape to portrait. Is that a setting? I don't know. But I'm back on the GoPro now because it was flat after being charged yesterday. I don't know what's going on there, but right. Let me. I'm just going to fiddle around with this, and I'll be back. So that was all nice and straightforward for once. The wheels in its standard position like that are pointing, to the best of my knowledge and eyesight, straight ahead. What I did notice is that when the suspension goes down, just the natural arc of the wheel tows them out a little bit. So if it goes over, like if it gets any sort of downforce, there we go, over engineering talk again for a toy car, but any sort of downforce pushing down on the suspension slightly makes the front wheels tow out anyway. So I would, you know, my aim is so that when I pull the trigger and it goes straight and it doesn't lose traction, that the car stays straight. I think it's got a gyro in there as well, I believe, which it probably will need for high-speed runs. So that will help. So that, I was going to do the anti-roll bar at the front. I think I'll leave them. It's on its softest setting at the moment to allow a little bit of body roll. It depends where this ends up running. I need somewhere as flat and as straight as possible. I have got somewhere. I did find somewhere the other day. But yeah, so that's, as far as I'm concerned now, the car is pointing straight, sitting level, and the suspension's working pretty well. So if I drop the front, it works well. There's no recoil. The back is a bit softer, it's got more weight on it because everything's over the back. Like I said, that rear wheel can be removed, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to take it for a run in its stock setting, as it were, even the gearing. I will now get this on the scales, and I'll be back when the car's sitting on the scales, and I'll show you the current readings, and we can go from there. So the car is now on the scales. I'll reset the scale machine, and then I'll put the car on. Now I'm going to show you what the readings are at the moment. 54% at the rear, which you'd expect, and 46 at the front. It probably won't get a lot different than that, because just by the layout of the car, because most of the weight is on the back. The overall weight of the car is just over 2 kilos, as you can see there. And you've got some other markings here, which is interesting. The numbers in the corner, that's 605.9 and 508.5, is where the weight is on the car. Now the motor is on the right hand side of the car, hence why that number there is higher. So we can change that a little bit. The front's a little bit more in line. It's not so much. We've got the battery, and there's going to be more weight on the left because of the battery. The battery's on the left. So the front left, 494.3 and 472.5. So that's its standard settings. The collars, the adjusting collars on the shocks are wound down a little bit. There's a little bit of tension there. So looking at those readings, I need to put a little bit more weight on the right. So if you look at that, you've got the front left, that one. Sorry, do I need my lefts and freaking rights? Front right, that one, and rear left, that one. So it is moving at the moment because I just touched it in my hand, but that wants adjusting, and so does that. So that needs to go up a little bit, and that one there needs to go down. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change on the car itself, that platform, I'm going to wind down. That'll put more spring pressure on that corner, and the same with this rear one here. I'm going to wind that platform down as well. I'm going to go down 2 turns on both. Now I won't be doing that on scales. It's just a fiddly ass job. So even taking the car on and off will change those readings significantly. It's too sensitive almost. So I'm going to do the platforms. I think another thing you should do is bounce this up and down, but I don't want to damage the sensors in here. So because I've just placed it on there, I will just do the same thing. The most important thing when you use this type of equipment, I used to use this in real life as well, like for full scale cars, you have to be symmetrical in everything you do. So if you, in my case, on the large scale cars, I rolled the car off of the scales, done the adjustment, bounced the suspension and rolled it back on. Had a little ramp that went up on. And that was the only way, because you've got to be consistent each time. I never bounced the car when it was on the scales, and I never did any adjustments on the car whilst it was on the scales. So that it was the same procedure to get a reading. So for this one, I'll take the car off. I'll adjust what I need to adjust. So I'm going to take the car off, do the adjustments, bounce it up and down on the side somewhere else, turn the scales on, put it back on. That's the plan, Stan. So I have adjusted it. I've done a couple, might be too much actually. I've done 2 turns on that wheel and 2 turns down on that wheel. Thing is, I can't remember what it was at now. So when you watch the video, you always think, oh, doing it all wrong. However, looking at that, the backs are closer. The front's gone way out now because that's a lot higher. That's 533 and that's 43. It's like 100 grams, I suppose that would be difference. That's quite a lot, and that would make sense because I've just wound that platform down. I might have to wind it back up again. I'll have to remember. I should write it down, shouldn't I? So you got 53% on the front. Is that right there? Let me read that a minute. Let me just, before I... So, front, right. Is that front, right? What am I talking about? That's plus. So 53%, it's getting closer there. 54, 47 and 46. So you've got the front weight, which is 46%. And the rear weight is 54, and that's side to side. So we need to, perhaps, if we take weight out of that side, it might put it in this side. It might change that. So at the moment, 46, 54, I think that's what was at anyway. There's all these numbers. It's been a while since I've done this. But anyway, I'm going to change that now. So I'm going to probably, I should really write this down, I think. All right, bear with me. I'm going to make some notes. So when I change it, I know what it says. And that platform there, I'm just going to wind back up one turn. So what I've done, I've put that platform up and that platform down. And what's happened, I think the front to rear, there's not much we can do about that. 46, 54, that's about right. But it's got 50% each side of the car now. So it's sitting perfectly balanced and the front and rear weight is fine. So when it accelerates, it's going to put more weight onto the back and it will lift the front. And you can see the numbers there. So the front right is 497. I won't use the point. And 468. It can be improved a little bit there, but it's closer. 573 for the rear right and the rear left 541. It is slightly out again, but it's still 50% across the car. I don't know how it works out. But it's not far. We've got the front weight of 965 and the rear weight, which you expect to be higher, of 1115. So those spring platforms on the car do make a difference. It's so sensitive. So I just to clarify, I took the car off the scales, did the adjustment, moved the car, used the suspension just to get it to settle, and I'm going to pick it up again, and then just placed it back on the scales, making sure that each pad is as close to the centre of the wheel each side as possible. And that's kind of the result we're left with. So I think the front and rear weight could be altered, I suppose, if you really sort of loaded it up, or you moved the battery, or you put weights in it. But I think I'm quite happy with the fact that it's now symmetrical across each side of the car. So I'm gonna just clear up a minute, and I'll be back for a closing of the next plans. So there we have it. I've done what I can for now. I would say, is it ready to run? Yes, pretty much. I mean, I might have to put the stabilizers on the side here. They've got those like bat wings that go on, and it looks like they need to be actually screwed on. It's not sort of made so it fits, as far as I'm aware. I think it might go on the side here, unless I've misread something. But yeah, once those bat wings are on, maybe I should try it without them. Like I said, I've got to do it like stock, so it would make sense. It's got some plastic on there. It would make sense to try it as it's intended to be, straight out the box. I still think it's a bit high at the front. Now I can adjust the droop, which will change that. It's probably going to change, the settings on the scales, I guess. The back's fine. I just think the front is a little bit too high. But If it goes down that low, there's no more real suspension movement. So I think maybe the body shell could do it. I might see if I can get the body shell lower. I'm not sure that I can do that, but I'll have a check. Maybe I've overlooked that. If the body shell at the front can sit lower, then I think that to me would be a lot better. It would be just lower, the body shell just sits. I don't know, we'll have a look. So the next thing I've got to do is charge the batteries up and take it out. You know, the same old thing of, do I get time to do that? I've got time to do this, it's in the morning. I do find it difficult to find time to get these cars out, but I will do this one. So this is the end of part 3 of the setup process. Part 4 will be a shakedown run. Bear in mind, if I've got to put a speed meter on it somewhere, it's going to change the weight distribution ever so slightly. So maybe I should have done the weights with that sat on there, but I forgot, I didn't realise. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that series. This is, like I said, part 3 and the setup. Maybe you learned something, maybe you can teach me something, maybe I've said something incorrect if I overlooked it. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'd like you to, you know, if you get a chance, I appreciate if you like the video, and if you can subscribe to the channel. I'm still trying to make it to 500. I get enough views to warrant 500 followers, but it just doesn't happen. I don't know, it's just and it's just milestones in my head. There's no other reason. I mean, there's a milestone of 1,000. That's just beyond my head at the minute. I'm just not think about it. So I'll just keep producing videos, or putting videos out there, and just logging my process on RC fun and hobbies and things. But anyway, that's it. There's not much else to say. Look forward to the next one. I hope to see you in part 4, and yeah, I don't know, I'll run out of words now. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.